Hi, I'm Julian Lage, and you're watching First Look.
Hello, I'm Don Was, president of Blue Note Records. The brilliant guitarist Julian Lage has just released his latest albums called Speak to Me. It was produced by the legendary Joe Henry, and both of you fellows are here today. Thanks so much for being here. Great to see you guys.
Great to see you too.
Great to be with you both.
Yes. I'll never forget hearing this album for the first time. I was walking through the Atlanta airport with some headphones on, and I felt like I was in a movie or a dream, but the plot kept twisting with every song. And I've never heard anything like this album before. I don't know how to describe it. And Julian, maybe you can do that. Tell us a little bit about this record and your intentions when you started making it.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. I mean, truth be told, Don, what you're talking about uh, was the intention for the record to create an ensemble and a sonic world that had all of the agency of, let's say, my trio, and really of any improvising ensemble, but with the color and the features and the dimensions of a larger orchestra, and trying to figure out a way to have both. The heart of the matter was this book of songs that I wrote and I would share with Joe at every stage, and say, well, what about, what about this one? Okay, what about this one? I mean, we went through 30, 40 songs looking for compositions that also straddled that line between being kind of invitations to improvise, but also real declarations melodically, rhythmically, and also just on an emotional temperament. There's a sadness to the music that I think is presented boldly, with a lot of air around it. So these are some of the elements that kind of came together in just making it. I can say for certain I had no idea it would turn out the way it turned out until we got in the studio. Just this particular band, these musicians with Joe at the helm, it was like, holy cow, this is something that I haven't heard either. And it was so exhilarating, really.
It's a beautiful, beautiful record. Joe, man, for my money, you're the best record producer out there today. And one of the things I dig most about what you do is the way you build, is the way you hold the song and the artist paramount, and you build everything else in support of them. Does that become more complicated when the storyteller is a guitarist and there are no lyrics to work with?
Well, not when that guitarist is Julian Lage. It doesn't. Um, I can see the problem by imagining this track. I didn't have that problem here, Don. Thank you, by the way, for those very kind words. I,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that my orientation as an artist first, a songwriter before I'm anything else, has really shaped my attitude about, the song being king, you know, the artist being the most important element in the room. Um, I'm always reminding people that, I'm not the school principal. I work for you. I'm not trying to get you to do what I would do. I'm trying to help you do what you do the best that you can do it.
Mm.
And in regard to Julian's record in particular, because I hear his playing, I was driving in a car really early this morning with my wife, and a song by Johnny Hodges came on, and we started talking about how Johnny kind of plays like the greatest singer. I mean, invariably. And in a very real way, I find Julian, even at his most abstract,
Mm.
that he lands on my heart like a singer. I
Mm.
always know that I'm being spoken to, and I've always feel like a story is being told. Even if the narrative is abstract, even if it's nonlinear, I think every creative endeavor is a form of storytelling. That's where it all began, telling stories to each other, for affirmation and first and foremost. So I still felt like we had a singer in the room, and I still felt there was poetry in the air,
Mm.
even without words. So I followed the same scent that I'm always followed.
Absolutely, man. Julian, when you sent me the album, I accidentally downloaded it out of sequence. And I thought that it opened with Nothing Happens Here. which
Yeah.
I found to be a bold move, but I dug it a lot.
But you could have.
You know, it certainly could have opened that way, but
Well, I could have, yeah. I dug what you ended up with too, but I dug that. Tell us a little bit about that track.
I'd say emotionally, Don, nothing happens here is kind of the centerpiece of the record. There's a duality at play with a lot of these songs. They're part, like I was saying before, there's this conversation between the improvised world and the written world, but no other song on the record is as explicit as this one in terms of presenting you with almost it's almost like a hymnal style song, almost like it's basically a refrain that happens three times, and then there's a pregnant pause, and then it's almost like a Paul motion too in the last part. This extended coda that invites group improvisation, group composition. And I think it captures the temperament of the whole record quite succinctly. So it's fitting to have it as a kind of a nightcap to the whole record.
I agree. Let's play a little bit of it.
Absolutely.
Well, that's Julian Lage from his new album "Speak to Me," a track called "Nothing Happens Here." Joe, we should mention the incredible cast of musicians that you guys gathered together for this record.
Sure, I think we should too. I mean, it was essential that we were building from Julian's long-standing and ferociously great trio of Dave King on drums and Jorge Roeder on bass, along with Julian. And when we started talking about expanding the frame a little bit and creating a little bit of a broad sense of orchestration, one thing that Julian and I talked about explicitly was, you know, our desire for things to get a little bit more widescreen, but we never wanted to lose the intimacy. We never wanted to lose the focus on Julian's voice, in his hands, especially as much acoustic guitar as he was playing. I didn't want anyone kind of breaching the wall from where he was in temperament and velocity and emotional quality. So to the trio, we added the very great Patrick Warren on keyboards, who, Don, you would know well, is one of the most underrated arrangers in Los Angeles, and always thinks like an orchestrator, no matter how raw and immediate the moment is asking him to be singular and solitary. He still thinks in orchestral terms, and I've come to rely on that musically and on him personally for 25 years or so at this point. We also had the great fortune of having the pianist Chris Davis with us, who I thought was extraordinary, and not least because she operates a lot using the prepared piano, which I'm a great lover of. I'm a John Cage enthusiast, and I find that approach deeply both romantic and there's a deep melancholy to that sound as well, and it implies a lot beyond the confines of a grand piano. And then we brought in the reed player Levon Henry, who also is really beautiful at abstracting things and improvising orchestration. He can really blow, but he much prefers, his favorite thing to do is sort of to improvise orchestration along with an ensemble. And that became something that we were all leaning into, this idea of an open door to improvisation, but never losing the thread of the structure of the song. I never wanted it to not sound like a song. It was never an excuse for people to just blow. It always had to hang together as song form and the song intentionality. And I think we got there. And I think this particular cast of characters understood that perfectly well, didn't need to be guided there. That's just how they think. They're very incredibly generous
Mm. Well,
collaborators.
you definitely got there, and you made a stunning, timeless record together. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Oh,
Don.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. What an honor it has been.
Truly. Truly.
Well, it was good to see you both. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll dig you next time on First Look.
If you enjoyed First Look and would like to see more, please hit the subscribe button and also click the bell icon. That way, you'll be notified when we post our next video.